The NHL season is less than 1 week away. We're previewing the Metro, talking Roadrunners, ASU, and of course, more rumors about the NHL to Arizona. Stay tuned. We'll be here soon. Happy Wednesday. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the PHNX Hockey Podcast, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. You can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Good Lord, it's chaotic in here. Visit CircleK.com for details. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah here with Petey. You're back.
I'm back. Was I not here?
You were not here.
I was out of town. I don't remember. We do this once a month now. I can't. I have to reacquaint myself with the staff every time I come through now.
True. It is true. It's been a while. Sad.
But no, I'm back, and I'm happy to be back and finally feeling better.
Oh,
remodel is done.
Oh, is it?
Yep, remodel's done. We'll do before and after on another show. Or we have too much to talk about today.
Oh my gosh. We also have Shane behind the Mac with us today. So
the magic. I always use the magic behind the Mac just because it sounds really good. But he truly is. He was our first.
Yeah, first producer.
Yeah. And now, you know what they say.
And now he's head of production, so we're pretty bougie on this show.
You know what they say, Leah? You always remember your first.
You do know what they say. Paul is here.
Oh, Chris. I haven't seen Chris.
Chris Melton's here.
Tough week for Chris. What? Diamondbacks.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's been a tough week for all Valley sports fans.
But isn't it always?
Yeah.
It's always.
That's true.
It's not like it's a new vibe for here.
That's true. But yeah, Paul is a East Coast resident, so we're previewing the Metro today.
Cool.
That's of interest to Paul. We have Cheryl in the chat. Thanks for joining us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Yeah, the Metropolitan division, this one's an interesting one. I feel like this is a division where anything could happen. You have the top teams, you have the teams that you don't quite know what they are. There's teams like New Jersey who were terrible last year, but made a ton of moves in the offseason. You have, you don't know what's going to happen with the Columbus Blue Jackets, how they're going to respond to the tragic loss of Johnny Gaudreau, whether it'll inspire them or it's going to be a hard year for them. There's just a lot of big question marks. Carolina has always been a top team in this division. They took a lot of hits with players leaving. So this is an interesting division
It's one of those divisions that has dominated the NHL over the last 15 years. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the Washington Capitals, the New York Rangers, the Carolina Hurricanes. I just don't know if it's still the time in the Metro. So we're going to get a chance to talk about all these teams, and are they going up or are they going down?
Very true. Well, I need to call in the experts. So we reached out to Charlie O'Connor from PHLY Flyers to help us preview the Metro.
Because he knows, because of the Flyers.
He's there. He's covering them every day. So without further ado, let's hear from Charlie O'Connor. All right, I am joined by Charlie O'Connor from PHLY. He covers the Flyers. He's been on the show before. But Charlie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, we got to get started by asking you about the Flyers. Obviously, the biggest storyline is Matvei Michkov's arrival to the team. Is he the real deal? Like, do you think he's going to help push this team forward this year, or is it kind of a wait and see?
Well, so far, he certainly looks like he's going to. He's played in 3 preseason games and the rookie game, which was mostly just a prospect game. So 4 games in total. He has 7 points in those 4 games, and it does seem like he's only getting better. So if there was legitimate concern that his game wasn't necessarily going to translate, so far, so good. And look, I'm not going to say that he's going to have a Sidney Crosby-esque rookie year. That would be far, far too much to ask. But it does seem like he's going to have a legitimate impact on this roster. And it wouldn't shock me even a little bit if he ends up being the, if not the top scorer on the team, at least ranking in the top 3. I think, too, what has been really reassuring about Michkov is one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why he slipped to 7 in his draft year was a belief that he might not necessarily click with teammates, particularly off the ice, that he had the kind of personality that would make him difficult to deal with in terms of conflicts with teammates. There are reports of, him having it out with some teammates in Russia and whatnot. And I think that was a legitimate concern. I think that particularly might have been the big reason why Montreal at number 5 chose not to take him. Well, obviously it's early and this could change. He could have conflicts with teammates in the future. He could butt heads with John Tortorella, obviously. But thus far, he has really, really clicked with his teammates. I've been in the locker room watching him interact with his teammates. He's learning English very quickly. Even today, he was having a conversation with Sean Couturier, the captain, and it was a very friendly conversation. They're just talking about plays and talking about things they both saw on the ice. It doesn't seem like, at least to start, that there's going to be any conflict. And if you combine that red flag maybe not being so much of a red flag anymore, and the fact that on the ice, he's showcasing the skill that made him, one of the blue chip prospects of 2023 going into that draft. Yeah, it's really exciting. And I do think he's going to make a big impact.
It is crazy, there were all those controversies surrounding him in his draft year, many things, but a lot of the experts were saying like he was right up there with Bedard in terms of skill and talent in that draft. So it'll be really interesting to see. Do you think a full season with him and now getting Jamie Drysdale in for a full year? Obviously, the Flyers finished 3rd worst in the division last season. Do you think there's a way for this team to kind of be in the picture for a playoff spot in the East, or at least pushing, harder than they did last year in the standings?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a path. They survived in the playoff race up into game 82. Now, even if they would have won game 82, I don't think they ultimately would have made the playoffs because of other things, but they hit the ice for game 82 with a chance to make the playoffs. So they weren't far off last year. Now, granted, there are question marks, even beyond the fact that Matvei Michkov is going to be playing a major role in this team and he's a rookie. You don't know how he's going to play. The big question mark, I would say, is goaltending. And you have to remember that going into last season, they entered the year with Carter Hart as their number 1 and Sam Ersson as a backup. Now, obviously, Carter Hart is no longer in the NHL. We don't need to rehash that story, but he's no longer in the picture. He's no longer a member of the Philadelphia Flyers organization. The Flyers now have handed the reins primarily over to Sam Ersson. Ersson in the first half of last year was quite good. Now, a lot of that he spent serving in a backup role to Hart. Then before Hart was charged with the crime that he was charged with, they split time for about a month. During that stretch, Sam Ersson looked great. He was putting up really good numbers and showing a lot of potential. Then once the reins were fully handed over to him as the number 1, after Hart was no longer available for the Flyers, Ersson's play dipped. The Flyers believe, and I personally share this belief, but obviously it's just a belief. There's no proof. I believe that the bigger problem was not that he shrunk from the responsibility. It was more that the Flyers didn't really have a backup goalie. So Ersson basically had to play every game. And I think he just got worn down both physically and mentally. They believe that if they give Ersson sufficient rest and don't play him every game like they did down the stretch, they believe he will produce like the goalie from the first half and be a more than solid number 1 option. That is a legitimate possibility. That's the way it could play out, but we don't know. It's an unknown. I talked to John Tortorella today after practice, and John Tortorella, in a moment of real frankness, straight up said, our goalie situation scares the hell out of me. And it's not because he doesn't like Sam Ersson. He really, really is high on him, particularly the mental side of his game. But he just hasn't seen Ersson be a number 1 yet. This is an unknown. We're venturing into unknown territory here in terms of trusting that Ersson can take, 50, 55, even 60 games. He could, and if he does, I think the Flyers will have a really good chance of making the playoffs. If he plays more like the goalie from the second half, though, that is going to be a dramatic downgrade. I don't think that team can make the playoffs.
It's crazy how much goaltending can really play a factor, and how many teams, the ones who have their star goalies, they don't really realize how lucky they are. One of those teams, of course, being the Rangers. I want to venture off to the rest of the division now. Obviously, the Rangers and the Hurricanes finished at the top. They're always in that conversation for being the top teams in the Metro. Last season, the Islanders finished in that third spot. The Devils had a super disappointing year last year, but they made some huge moves in the offseason to bolster their goaltending, one of their big problems as well. Do you still think that the Rangers and Carolina are the top teams in this division? And who do you think is going to take that maybe other top 3 spot?
Yeah, I still think both the Rangers and the Canes are going to make the playoffs. I do think the Canes, particularly defensively, took a step back. They lost some pretty key pieces. I'm unsure if they're going to be able to fully replace them. But I think the Canes are so deep and so well coached that they're going to make the playoffs. The Rangers, I don't think they were as good as their record last year. I think they played a little bit over their heads. But I do think they're a playoff team. I look at them and I see a team that has a star goalie, a star defenseman, and a star forward. And I think teams that have those 3 pieces, and they have it in Shesterkin, Fox, and Panarin, they don't miss the playoffs. When you have that kind of top-end talent, your floor is very high because those guys are just not going to let you lose enough games to miss the playoffs. So I fully expect the Rangers to be in the mix. I think they'll regress a bit. I think the Canes are going to regress a bit. And the team I look to as the team that I think is going to take the leap this year is New Jersey. I did not expect them to struggle as much as they did. I think I was not the only one who was surprised. But they dealt with injuries. Their goaltending situation was an abject disaster. Well, they went out this summer. They got Markstrom. They've upgraded their defense core. They know what their weaknesses were, and I think they addressed them. And I also think that another issue that they dealt with last year that they hope they're not going to deal with this year is injuries. Jack Hughes basically spent the entire second half of the year injured. Even when he was playing, he wasn't close to 100%. They lost Dougie Hamilton near the start of the year and basically missed the entire season. Their assumption is that those guys will be healthy this year and will play most of the year. Add in the improvements in goal and the improvements on the back end. It would not shock me even a little bit if the Devils take a giant leap and actually win this division. Now, again, I don't think that the Rangers and the Canes are going to miss the playoffs, but I'm expecting both those teams to dip a bit, and I'm expecting the Devils to take a big leap.
Yeah, especially what the Devils did not last season, but the season before in the postseason. They had this great run. I don't think anybody expected the drop off that they had last season. And maybe just like you said, that New York was better than their record show last season. I think New Jersey was also maybe better than their record showed. There were just so many factors that influenced it. But it's crazy. Just this division, I just feel like there's so much room for somebody to surprise and somebody to disappoint. And that brings me to the group, kind of the teams that I kind of at least see personally as the middle teams, the teams that I don't really fully know what their identity is, where they stand. And that's the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Capitals. Obviously, both Pittsburgh and Washington, they're both aging teams. Sid did just resign, though. So that's, a positive for them. But you got Ovi just chasing the goal record, it seems like at this point. And then the Islanders, they didn't really make any other major moves besides adding Declare. They have their goaltenders injured to start the year. So where do you kind of see these teams? Are any of those teams a playoff team? And what do you think their kind of identities are at this point?
Yeah, I'm skeptical of the Penguins, I'll be honest. Now, obviously, they kept Crosby. I think that was more or less a foregone conclusion. But I don't like their roster beyond those high-end guys. Now, I assume the power play will be better. It's hard for that power play to be worse given the talent that they have. So you would guess there's going to be some type of positive regression there. But I just don't look at the Penguins and see a team that scares me. And beyond, obviously, Crosby being Crosby and, Malkin still being good, and they have Carlson and they have Letang, but they're not a deep team. They obviously lost Jake Gensel. They're not – it seems like they have a mandate from above that, well, we just can't bottom out as long as we have Sidney Crosby. But they're also telling Kyle Dubas to look towards the future and, kind of try to, thread that needle where we don't necessarily have to make the playoffs. We just have to be in the mix. And I expect them to be in the mix. I don't expect them to make the playoffs. The Capitals, though, they're interesting to me just because they did make some moves. They made some ads. They had the big ad with Pierre-Luc Dubois. They're taking the risk there. Now, how that plays out, I have no idea, but he at the very least should help them. they are making ads, and they did make the playoffs last year. They went out, they signed Matt Roy, a good defenseman. They traded for Jacob Chikrin. So they've made some upgrades. Now, in no way, shape, or form do I think the Capitals are a cup contender. I think those days are done. But I'm not ready to say that they are only a vehicle for Ovechkin to get the goal record. Last year, I thought that's what they were. I thought they were literally just on the schedule to get Ovechkin as many goals as possible. And hilariously, didn't actually start scoring until the final couple months of the year. But this year, they strike me as a team that is kind of going for it a bit. And it wouldn't look, if they fell off a cliff, it wouldn't shock me. They're not the team they were 5-6 years ago. But they are a team that made some ads. And in a division where not many teams, aside really from the Devils, made big ads, maybe that's enough to get them in the playoffs over the Islanders.
What do you think about the Islanders? Like, I don't really know what to think about them. They've kind of had this identity of being this boring team. They have some skilled players with Barzal. They have strong goaltending. What do you make of them, and where do you kind of see them slotting in this division this year?
Lee, I am perpetually underwhelmed by the Islanders. So I'm probably not the right person to ask, because I will always assume that they are not that good. But then every year they're in the playoff mix. They're either in the playoffs or just missing the playoffs. They're always hanging around. I'm still not 100% sold on Patrick Roy as a good NHL coach. I know it seemed like he did a good job in the second half, and perhaps he did. I didn't follow the team super closely, but the record certainly improved after he took over. I just go back to what I watched him do in Colorado, and I'm still not sold on him being a long-term head coaching solution. So I'm a little down on the Isles, but they're a team that they're deep. They have an identity. They have a good top pair in Pelech and Polak. They have guys like Barzal who can make plays. So I can't write them off entirely. I guess they're just not a team that excites me very much, to be honest with you.
I don't think you're alone in thinking that. I was talking to Petey about he said, most boring team in the NHL. And I think that's a widely agreed upon assessment of them. The last team I want to ask you about, the Columbus Blue Jackets, obviously, I mean, they just experienced the very tragic loss of Johnny Gaudreau. They were last in the division last year. I think a lot of them had thought they would be better than they were last year. There were clearly some, issues with coaching at the beginning of the year. And now they face, even more and worse adversity with the loss of Johnny Hockey. Do you think that, this is something that's going to inspire and bring the team together? Or is this something that maybe Columbus is going to be back at the bottom of the standings this year?
Yeah, it would be a great story if they can, dedicate their season to Johnny Gaudreau and go on a surprise run. It would certainly be a great story for hockey overall. I just don't think they have enough talent. And it's hard to talk about that roster without talking about the fact that Johnny Gaudreau, aside from it being a tragedy, he's a really, really good NHL player. And now he's obviously no longer on the roster. That's an enormous hole. But even a roster with Gaudreau, we saw that roster last year, it wasn't very good. Now, they're obviously hoping that young players like Adam Fantilli are going to take big steps forward. And I guess that's possible. We're talking about a top 3 pick, a guy who was still is viewed as one of the blue chip young talents in the league. They have guys on defense, young guys on defense that could take steps. They have guys like Cole Sillinger who could improve. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they take some type of run, and that would be fun. It really would. I think the entire NHL would be pulling for that team if they go on something of a Cinderella run. But I just don't see the talent unless like Fantilli takes a star turn and David Jiricek becomes a top pair defenseman the same way that like Brock Faber out of nowhere became a top pair defenseman for the Wild last year. I don't think it's likely. I don't see a team with enough talent, but it would be a great story if they can kind of dedicate the season to Johnny and then go on something of a run.
Yeah, it absolutely would. I think, we would all love to see that. They do have a lot of, like you said, great young prospects, a lot of prospects coming down the pike that we'll see in a couple of years from now. So I hope to see this Columbus team competitive again. I always think that's fun. And, here in Arizona, we love, a smaller market team, love cheering them on. So especially with all the adversity they've been through, I'd love to see them succeed. I'm not sure how it'll go this year, especially with some of the other teams that we just talked about in the Metro. But like I said before, I think there's so many different ways things can shake out. I think someone could obviously nail the prediction, but I think it might be one of those where you look back at the end of the year and say, I had this team there and like this happened. This division just has that sort of vibe for me. Before we let you go, Charlie, I kind of want to get your one bold prediction for the Metro division this year.
I mean, I think I kind of hinted at, I think my bold prediction is that I'm picking the Devils to win the division. I think they're going to jump from out of the playoffs into the division lead. And a lot of that, again, stems from the fact that I think the Rangers played a little over their heads last year and they're due for a natural regression. And I think the Canes are a team that lost enough pieces that I'm expecting them to be a bit worse than they were last year. I don't really have a lot of faith in any of the other clubs in that middle. I think the Flyers could make the playoffs. I think they're very much a team that is in that mix. But even if they take a jump, unless Michkov is rookie year Sidney Crosby, I don't think they have a chance to win the division. That would shock me. Whereas the Devils, I look at them as a team that the year before last, when they were healthy, they were right there. And I think on paper, this year's roster is better than that year's roster. Hughes is theoretically a couple years older. Their young guys are theoretically older, and now they've been through a tough year. Maybe they're better for the adversity. They actually have a goaltender now. I just look at the Devils as a team that, if there's a team that can take that jump from out of the playoffs to being a top seed, it could be them.
Well, I love it. We'll see what happens. For everybody watching, you can catch Charlie daily on the PHLY Flyers show. That's live at 1 p.m. our time here in Arizona on the PHLY Sports YouTube channel. So check them out. They got a post game on Thursday as well. So if you want to follow the Flyers, I know we have a lot of free agent fans here in Arizona. So I'm giving everybody the opportunity to, maybe have a team that they want to follow in the East. Charlie and Bill do great work out in Philly. So definitely support them. And you can follow Charlie on Twitter at CharlieO_Con, 2 N's. Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lee. It was great to be here.
Well, thank you again to Charlie O'Connor from PHLY Flyers. They do great work over there. They have a really fun show.
And maybe a better team. Maybe.
They have a team. Oh,
no,
that's what you mean.
They do. But maybe a better team this year than they had a year ago.
Man, Leah looked really sad after you said
Leah
that.
came in hot with that one.
She looked at you and said, they have a team.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Our team can't be worse than theirs because we don't have one,
She's
Steve.
literally not wrong.
Our team's gone, Steve.
But can I say one thing, Leah, first?
Sure.
Can we not fight in the chat?
Yeah.
Rick and Paul? It's just on paper. We're arguing about a team on paper. Literally, I do like his 1920s talk, and I wish I could do it. I can't do it. I pretend I can. But the Devils are better on paper, and they do potentially have the top 6 defensemen as a group of 6 in the entire NHL. Literally that good. And we talk that includes teams like Carolina and Florida. So the Devils are going to be better because of Jacob Markstrom. That's why they're going to be better, and that's why they're going to compete for the top of the Metro.
Well, we will give our predictions, me, Petey, and Shane. Yes, we will. Right after the break, we're going to give our predictions, talk about Tucson Roadrunners training camp, which started on Tuesday, talk about ASU Hockey's opening weekend, and round things out by talking about the rumors to NHL back to Arizona. All of that coming up on the PHNX Hockey. It is still hot here, Petey. I don't know if you've noticed. It's hot.
I did notice.
It's sunny. Thank goodness I have my Shady Rays. I'm a huge Shady Rays fan. I wear mine every single day. I keep a pair in my car. Like, you have to have multiple sunglasses.
But that's why Shady Rays work.
Oh my God, because they're
of
affordable.
The price. They're affordable.
And they're stylish. If you've never just scrolled their website to see their styles, I also have another pair on the way. I love my Shady Rays.
Can match your outfits.
Yeah.
That's how inexpensive
every style has different colors.
That's me.
They're so affordable. And they're great. They're polarized, so it's especially for the sun here. Listen, you really, really need sunglasses.
I don't care, but it's important they have it. I'm looking
it's better for your eyes.
I know, but I don't care.
So we're big fans of Shady Rays here at PHNX. Also a great gift for the holidays. I know it's October, but you got to start thinking. So make sure you check out Shady Rays, and exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Petey, you weren't here last week to give us the concert rundown at Gila. So what do we got?
Get excited because, I'm not much of a gambler, but I do like my entertainment, and I like my entertainment close up, never farther than 75 feet away at the Wild Horse Pass and Casinos Theater. Cheap Trick is coming this week October 3rd. I want you
That's tomorrow.
to want me. Melissa Etheridge, October 12th. Colby Calais and her mellow,
Ooh.
dulcet tones are showing up later in October, on October 18th. If you want to get your entertainment on, check out the Wild Horse Pass and Casino/entertainment.
I love it. Roaring Fork said, if I lose money, I'm blaming Shane. You can also...
Honestly, that's fair.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? There are other casinos out here in Arizona. I rarely lose money down at Wild Horse Pass.
It's true. You drive there.
Yeah,
It is
I
great.
do.
And there's sportsbook and
I get killed at the other ones,
top
especially
golf,
the one up north.
Wild
You
Horse
get
Pass
killed
and
there.
casinos.
So you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit play@Gila.com for more details. All right. Prediction times. Petey, you go first because you sent me yours yesterday.
But it's hard. It's hard when you talk about predictions because I'm usually wrong. I liked the New York Rangers a year ago. I like the New York Rangers now.
Okay.
And I'm going with Shesterkin, and a contract year is going to be lights out. I have the New York Rangers winning the division.
Okay.
Then do we have a graphic?
No, we're gonna tweet out the graphic.
I'm supposed to
after the
memorize
show.
what I said?
Okay, I'll pull it up then.
Second, I got the New Jersey Devils.
Petey's going to be like, second, I think,
Yeah.
Shesterkin in a contract here.
No, I knew I had them first, and I got the New Jersey Devils second because of all the things we talked about. I got Carolina third, and then I don't remember who I had fourth.
It doesn't matter what you put. What do you feel right now?
Well, what I think right now, I think in fourth is the New York Islanders. I do not like Pittsburgh and Washington at all. I just don't. I'm going to have Philadelphia jumping up, but not quite ahead of Washington yet. So I got Washington, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Columbus.
That's not what you sent me yesterday. It's fine. We're going off vibes.
I had Washington towards the end, but I liked Charlie's argument. That's how good it was.
All right. Okay. So
I think the Metro Division top heavy, incredibly top heavy. I think the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers are exceptional. I think Carolina was a team that I thought could win the East a year ago. I don't think so this year. So I've got New Jersey and New York on the very tippy top of this division.
I will say Charlie made a really good argument for the New Jersey Devils as well.
He did.
So
What
I
is
like
you
it.
say you do around here?
I get that reference now that everybody in the
you watch the
Discord bullied me into watching
Unbelievable.
Office Space. Yeah, of course. All right.
Boss.
I also like the Rangers. I might go with the same top three as you because I think Carolina took a lot of hits.
I do too.
With their losses, but I still think that they're a good team. Like Charlie said, they're a well-coached team and they just kind of have it. But I like New Jersey too. I think New Jersey with the addition of Markstrom, with some of the additions they made on defense, like I like New Jersey. I'm going to also go Rangers 1, New Jersey 2, Carolina 3. That's the only thing I feel pretty good about.
Mhm.
Everything else, like those middle teams are so confusing to me.
Yes.
I think I'm going to go Islanders 4, Pittsburgh 5, Washington 6, Philly 7, Columbus 8.
And to your point, Leah, and I know we're not to spend a lot of time on this, but I think any of those teams from 4 to 7 are interchangeable.
I agree.
I believe Pittsburgh could make a run if Sidney Crosby, when he can carry a team.
Yeah, I mean, he
Washington
still on it.
You had the additions in Washington. Does Pierre-Luc Dubois come up and have a better season? They've made a change in goal this year. Does that get enough to make them
I
better?
might regret putting Pittsburgh above Washington, but we all know that I'm a big Sidney Crosby fan. So.
I think the other interesting one is Columbus. Because we've all put Columbus at the bottom.
And that's what Alltech said. I think Columbus will be better than last season, even considering the recent tragedy.
And with Alltech's comment, I don't think this team's better on paper. I think Johnny Hockey was their best player.
Yeah.
But what that can do to a room, to galvanize a room and bring a room together. Remember, a little different, but Vegas Golden Knights came into the league, and then they had the horrific incident that happened in Vegas. It bonded that team for that season. Then they played for that, and it was palpable when you went into that building. And I think something similar could happen with Columbus. They may surprise people. They may take this.
I would love to see it.
And their room could bond. And that's why this league is so fun, because you just don't know who's going to be that team, who's going to be that goalie, who's going to be that breakout star that's going to be. We all thought it was Jersey last year. They don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Rick said Fantilli breakout season incoming. Who knows? They have
some nice players,
some amazing young prospects coming up. So I think the future is bright for Columbus, and that's kind of a team that, like, speaking of being a free agent fan, an underdog,
Yes.
a team that's, been through some terrible adversity, a smaller market. They kind of have all the makings of a team that I kind of want to root for.
I agree. I just don't think it's right now.
Yeah, but why not get in now for rooting? We're used to cheering for teams that aren't making the playoffs here in Arizona. So I don't know. I kind of like Columbus in the East for my rooting interests. All right, Shane.
All right.
The division expert, NHL division expert, Shane Diefenbach.
NHL division hater.
Yeah. You missed his rant last
we're going to continue with the chaos. It's really boring to just predict chalk.
All right.
And that's not what we're going to do. So, 1-2, I think is I love the New York Rangers. They're like for some reason, I've just found myself attached to them as my East Coast team. This generation of them, at least in the last 5 years. So I still think they're winning the division. And the Devils will bounce back. Number 2. Now 3, I'm dropping the Hurricanes all the way down. I'm doing something crazy. We're gonna go with the Pittsburgh Penguins at 3.
Wow.
Great players elevate, and I don't care if he's brittle and geriatric. Sidney Crosby's gonna have himself a better year than people think.
He's so good still.
So we're gonna take them at 3. And we're going Washington at 4.
Whoa.
And dropping Carolina all the way down to 5.
Whoa.
We're going Islanders 7.
So who's 6?
Columbus 6.
Whoa, okay.
Flyers last.
Okay.
And
honestly,
the best thing about this,
anything can happen in this division.
We'll delete this episode and we will not be held accountable. Trust me.
Yep. Very, very true. Let us know in the chat if you agree, disagree, and give us your rankings for how you think the Metro will shake out. All right, shifting gears. It's time to talk about the Tucson Roadrunners. We've been talking a lot about Arizona State, which we still will because their season's right around the corner. But Tucson Roadrunners training camp opened yesterday on Tuesday, and their season starts very soon, October 11th on the road in Colorado. Home opener is Saturday, October 19th against Texas. So it's once the calendar turns to October, it's hockey season all around for college, AHL, and NHL. Some notable names on the roster for the training camp down in Tucson. You have Mikko Matika.
Yep.
I'm going to try and say it right. You have Julian Lutz, Artem Duda, who Craig's been really high on. Who are some other names?
Kevin Connaughton's a guy that played for the Arizona Coyotes for a long time. A veteran player. Hasn't been talked about a lot. He's an experienced guy that should help down in the American League. Zuber. We talked about the goaltending tandem with Villalta and Stauber. Just keep your eye open, though, Leah. I hate to do this to you. They haven't sent Villalta down yet, and he's got to clear waivers.
Uh-oh.
You remember the Prosvetov problem a year ago?
And Villalta was so good in Tucson last year.
And I don't believe the Utah Hockey Club's going to carry 3 goalies. So keep your fingers crossed, Tucson Roadrunner fans, that Villalta clears waivers. But this brings up a really interesting point. Because when we don't talk Utah here, but we have to talk about it in relationship to Tucson. Mm-hmm. They have too many forwards right now. They have Kyler Yamamoto, who's playing very well and doesn't have a contract, who may get a contract as a tryout player. And if they do that, they have too many forwards. And somebody is going to have to get down to Tucson. Somebody really good is going to have to. And so those names right now on the bottom of that list right now are Liam O'Brien, Michael Carcone, Josh Doan, and Kyler Yamamoto. Somebody's going to have to go down to Tucson. So the Tucson roster will get significantly better here by next Monday because somebody's got to come.
I'm curious how Roadrunners fans would feel if Josh Doan were to.
I know, another appearance by Josh Doan. How would Josh Doan feel about it?
And by the way, here's this whole conundrum that a lot of fans who are not choosing to follow Utah are facing, which is you really want to cheer for the Roadrunners because they're the team. Yes. They're in Arizona, but also they're owned by the Morellos, but also it's players you're familiar with and you're excited for them, but then you're excited for them except they're going off to play with Utah. So how do you... Listen, I just want to say if you are a pure tried and true Tucson Roadrunners fan, there doesn't need to be any ulterior motive besides just cheering for the Roadrunners and cheering for the players on that roster. And obviously you still want to see those guys succeed and thrive, despite not being part of the Coyotes organization anymore. We've been part of their process for so long. Like I was, for example, even seeing Julian Lutz's name, Mikko Matika, I was there at their drafts and I want to see them thrive and succeed. I think that this Tucson team is going to be really interesting this season, really exciting. And I can't wait. We're definitely going to plan some trips down the I-10. Yeah, I'm sure we'll do another Roadrunners takeover like we've done in the past. So we will be covering the Roadrunners on the show. Obviously, Steve Potvin is very much a friend of the show. And you're going to be talking Roadrunners on our audio-only pod this week.
So I've been on these Friday only. I've been getting a chance to catch up and have some conversations with people around the league. And this Friday, it's John Slaney, assistant coach of the Tucson Roadrunners, also played with the Arizona Coyotes, coached with the Arizona Coyotes for a while. And we're going to talk Roadrunners, and we're going to tell old stories. I hope that's kind of the plan.
Yeah.
But again, with Slanes, we'll see if he calls. He's one of those guys. We'll see. We'll hope. The Roadrunners is going to be interesting. We'll talk more in depth about their roster. Their training camp, they've been on the ice for 2 days now. They don't have their team picked yet. There are still more players coming from the Utah Hockey Club that will be sent down to Tucson. So when they get their roster set, we'll do a little bit more deeper dive into some of those players that you should look for and where they feel they fit in the upcoming season. And I just want to recognize the chat. Nedeljkovic hurt in Pittsburgh. Thatcher Demko still hurt in Vancouver. Boston's goaltending mess is a literal
my God.
mess.
We'll talk more about that next
So there's 3
week.
teams looking for a goalie, and you got Matt Vialta, who was an all-star in the American League last year.
That's true.
So I'm concerned. Prosvetov was nowhere near the goalie that Matt Vialta was in the American League, and Prosvetov got picked up.
Yeah.
So yikes.
Like I said with Charlie, too, because he was talking about Philly's kind of question mark with their goaltending situation. It feels like I always compare NHL goalies almost like to an NFL quarterback. Like, you don't realize how lucky you are. You have a good one, and everybody wants one. So, that'll be interesting. Something we'll definitely keep our eye on. And like Petey mentioned, more Tucson coverage coming as we know more. But make sure you tune in on Friday to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're subscribed. If you haven't been listening, by the way, Petey's had some great just one-on-one conversations last week.
Been a little different vibe on that show.
Talked to Todd Walsh. That was a great episode. You've talked to Bob Heathouse. Yeah, some really great ones.
I had the rant episode to me last week.
You
was
yelling at
very
clouds
special.
as
Me
well.
yelling at clouds. So if you want to hear me yell at clouds and be a grumpy old man,
but also give
yelling at ice cream and pizza,
a peek behind the curtain.
It was
in life of an
I will say
NHL coach.
This. I got more than one, which is 2 calls from people going, it's exactly what it's like.
More than one.
You nailed it and loved it. So those are from people that were on the inside during that time. So if you want to peek behind the curtain, check out.
So just make sure that those are audio only. So you have to be subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, etc. PHNX Hockey. Those episodes drop every single Friday. John Slaney coming up.
Yep.
This Friday.
Hope so.
Another season that's starting this weekend is Arizona State. And actually, Petey and I got together with a couple of those guys yesterday. Ty Murchison, Ethan Schmaggy, and Tucker Ness. 3 great dudes. Thank you again to Peter Boyle for helping facilitate that. But I left that conversation feeling really excited about this ASU season.
I left that conversation wishing I was 20. That's what I did.
I felt old in that conversation, and I'm not even in my 30s yet.
Yeah, it was 8 o'clock, and I was looking at, hey, can we go? It's bedtime. But I tell you what, the excitement is definitely there. This is a tight locker room, and if you're going to miss hockey in the Valley, I think this is a team you can latch onto. Because I think there's some really good players. I think this Cullen Potter kid, 17 years old. 17.
And
draft year.
And they see it too.
He's a draft year kid. You're going to see NHL scouts at every single game in the mullet. You are, because this kid's legit. He's going to be a first-round pick. So I think that's one player to keep your eye on. But I think ASU is going to be a very good hockey team. They're on the road starting this weekend at Air Force before coming home next weekend, the 11th and 12th, to play the University of Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, and we, of course, will be there on the Saturday game for our takeover.
They were picked 20th right now. They're in the top 25. They're 20th in the I don't know, College Hockey Online.
Yeah.
CHO.
I think we covered that last week.
I
think we touched it. You weren't here.
You might have. I wasn't here.
Yeah, I think we touched on that
they were
last week.
8th out of 9 in the preseason written poll, and I think that's low.
You know the game on Friday is at 3:30?
Yes,
because you know why?
The football game
is
at 7:30 that night. ASU. So
it's a back-to-back double header. Hit them both.
Yep. Definitely go.
Could you hit them? No way could I do both. ASU football games are too late. They're just too late.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Talk about our takeover.
Well, yeah. So we'll be at our takeover. It's sold out, the game tickets, but if you want to come to our pregame meetup, you absolutely can. We'll be at Zips on Mill at 3 p.m. on Saturday the 12th. And then we're all heading over to, Shane is doing a little dance right now.
Yeah.
And then we're all heading over to the Mullet. Duh. I'm so excited.
What will you do? I have serious mom vibes from Leah.
Oh, God.
If Shane and I don't want to leave Zips. Like we decide we're going to buckle up.
I mean, I don't mind you
That
guys
wouldn't happen.
doing that, but you have to leave Zips to get to the game.
Well, you know what we should do? Get the Zips like 3 hours early.
That's true.
Yes.
So everybody coming to Zips, get ready.
Honestly, we haven't seen an ASU game meeting as a show for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, it's a different vibe than it is during a Coyotes game because of the student section, the 942. I tell you what, that building is buzzing, and if they get out and jump over the Wolverines, this is going to be an unbelievable building. I am sincerely excited about this team. I am excited about this season, and I hope hockey fans embrace what's happening at ASU this year.
Yep, and I know they will, and I know a lot of Coyotes fans are, switching their allegiances to Arizona State, and everybody should. I mean, this is an exciting team. This is a Division I hockey team. There's going to be players on this year's team who play in the NHL, so it's really exciting. Everybody, make sure you go out and support the Sun Devils, and we'll be covering them all season long as well. All right, last thing. On the show, we are going to talk about some comments made by Frank Seravalli about the NHL's possible return to Arizona, but we will do that after this quick break.
And today I'm going to talk to you about Blue Chew. They say first impressions are important. What about lasting impressions? That's where Blue Chew comes in. Blue Chew helps give men longer lasting and stronger erections, so you can perform at your very best. Blue Chew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra. Can you know what they are, Leah? They're sildenafil and tadalafil, but they're not.
Of course,
it's something better than that, but I can't pronounce it. But they do at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The best part, it's all done online. That means no visit to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. With Blue Chew, men are excited to see the postman, because when your package has arrived, your package will arrive. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. The Blue Chew free. It's free when you use the promo code ALLCITY at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's Blue Chew, BLUECHEW.com. Promo code ALLCITY to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast.
Absolutely. And by the way, speaking of convenience, not having to leave your house, doing something that, sometimes it's the barrier of entry is hard, but once you start, you're happy you do it. Empire Today, they make it so easy to shop for new flooring. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to go to those big box stores. They have a virtual thing where you can see what the flooring looks like in your home. And not only that, they really care about quality, and they care about making sure that the job is done right. This is why Petey's home renovation took like 4 months longer than it should have, because of these things. And that's something that Empire Today really prioritizes. It's something they did when they did the flooring here in the office. So you can schedule a free in-home estimate today, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. All right.
Can I say one thing about ASU?
You absolutely can.
And here, again, people that know me know I don't pay attention to either you when you're talking, wow, your emails that you send out. I don't know what's going on with this show unless it has to do with me. Did we talk that there's going to be video coming out? Did you say that?
I did not. Why don't you say it?
We talked about that I went to the practice. There will be a video coming up sometime in the next few days of my little visit to ASU, where I got to talk to some of the veteran players, including Captain Ethan Schmeggy, newcomer Noah Beck, defenseman just transferred in from Clarkson, and graduate senior Ty Jackson. And we talked to him as a trio. And I did bring up Weekend Binge. So if you want to know what those guys are weekend binging, not one of them was watching Love Island. I tried.
Were they watching BritBox?
I pitched it. They did. They did not. They said they were going to class.
Can I say something that makes me angry?
Okay.
Yes.
About Weekend Binge, not about Weekend Binge, but it's adjacent. Netflix has games on their app now.
Yeah.
Can we just like as a society just lock in for just
thing?
like an hour?
For a thing?
Oh
For
my
just one
God.
thing? But as an old man, I thought those were previews to movies, and I'm going, oh, that Netflix is an 8-bit. It looks really, or not Netflix, Stranger Things 8-bit thing. I want to watch that. It's not. It took me a month to figure out it was a game.
It's insane.
I'm not smart
It's
enough to figure that
insane.
out. So tune in just to hear the Weekend Binge was the fun part.
There you go.
So tune in. Meet your
the whole point too is we want you to get to know the guys,
Yes.
so it makes it easier to cheer for them. They're really great guys.
Good
So.
guys.
All right, shifting gears to NHL.
This can't be true.
In Arizona. And there's some irony in this for us because Frank Seravalli of Daily Faceoff, he was the one who first broke the relocation, the rumors, and then, the official relocation. It was a very bad day for us. He came on our show. He was great on our show.
But why did he come on our show, Leah? Because I kind of went at him.
Yeah, there was some drama.
There was some drama.
It was a very tense time.
It was a tense time for us. I kind of went at Frank a little bit.
Yeah, he ended up being correct.
And
I actually
was right.
Yeah, and I had the chance to talk to him at the NHL draft in Vegas this year. And, when we talked, he said, listen, like, I love Arizona. I love them as a market. This was just the situation. I didn't want to see this happen. There was a lot that got misconstrued. So I think there might, for some Coyotes fans, there's maybe a little bit of a bitter taste toward Frank Seravalli. But listen, at the end of the day, he was correct.
He was right.
And now we have Frank Seravalli talking about Arizona, but in a new light, in a new way, in a positive way. And Frank Seravalli was on the Clean Hits Hockey podcast this week. That's a Utah show. They asked him about Arizona specifically. And before we show some of the clips of what he said, I just want to say that the reason this came up is because they said, what pitch would you give to Arizona fans to potentially follow Utah or like extend an olive branch? And he said, I wouldn't do that. Like, I'm never going to ask a Oakland Raiders fan to watch the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not going to ask a St. Louis Rams fan to follow the LA Rams. So I'm not going to do that. And I respected that answer. I especially being on a Utah show, he could have gave them an answer that maybe they wanted to hear. So I respected that. They asked him about Arizona. We cut together a couple of his answers. So let's take a listen to Frank Seravalli on the Clean Hits Hockey podcast.
To me, I would ultimately say at the end of the day to hockey fans in the Valley is just be patient. Like there's going to be in short order, I think significant change to the landscape where you're seeing. My prediction is that you'll be seeing NHL hockey again in Arizona within the next 5 years. But I truly believe that hockey can work in Arizona. And I think the number of transplants are only going to grow. It's not really a place where when you walk around or you drive around, people say, I say, like, where are you from? Like, almost no one says, yeah, I'm from Phoenix. I'm from here. It's a very transient city. And I think you've got the ability to capture hockey fans that are moving in and or snowbirding there that they should be able to hit on, that I would have Arizona right at the top of the list. It's not just the arena, it's ownership, and it's getting rid of the baggage that existed with that team for a long time of really not being competitive. So that clean slate and fresh start. And to be honest, I think the best thing they could do is do it in conjunction with the Suns, whether it's the Suns owner, Matt Ishbia, planting a flag and saying he wants both winter sports there and building a new arena that houses both of them. That I think to me is a solid play all day long.
So there you go.
I want to give Frank some flowers.
Yeah,
because I have been very critical of Frank at times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that one time, not at times,
just
once.
that one time,
just once.
Yeah,
just once ever. So I already personally apologize, Frank, but thanks, Frank. That positivity on a Wednesday PHNX hockey show.
Yeah, and listen, I'm kind of been on the side where I'm expecting the longest possible wait just to manage my expectations. Like in my head, I'm like 10 years, just because that's helps for me, especially, you know, with the Matt Ishbia, with the Footprint Center situation, the lease not ending to the mid 2030s, which is a crazy thing to say. So if that maybe conjunction were to happen, it would be then. To hear Frank Seravalli say you might expect to see it back with it, like in the next 5 years. Now,
I would expect to see it back.
Yeah, I would expect to see it back. This is somebody who was very correct in his reporting on the team leaving and going to Salt Lake City. And I have almost no choice but to listen to what he's saying and realize that, you know, maybe he doesn't have all the sources, but he must have some source here. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say Frank's right. I'm agreeing. I can verify his statements because of reporting I've done. I haven't done reporting on this, but it's just interesting. Like if you compare this to 6 months ago, he was right. His sources were right. And now I believe that if he believes strongly 5 years, then I'm inclined to believe him. Does it mean I'm getting my hopes up? No. I'm still keeping it's going to be a long time expectation because I don't want to give false promises to people. You know, we have like a platform with the Arizona hockey community. I don't want to do that. That's not what I'm doing. But it is refreshing to hear, especially from somebody who Coyotes fans were pretty livid with at the time, kind of now come around and say, you know, not only do I think it'll be 5 years, but also be complimentary of the market, kind of assert that he thinks it's a better NHL market than even Houston. And a lot of it with Houston has to do with the lack of interest in an ownership group there. But, you know, we talk all the time about it kind of comes down to the arena, but he's so right that it also comes down to ownership. And it would be interesting whether it's Matt Ishbia or somebody else. It would be maybe it is the fresh start that the organization would need.
Yeah, and I do want to give a shout out again to Clean Hits Hockey. Thanks for that.
And thanks for being here, Clean Hits, and thanks for getting Frank on and getting that info. So we appreciate you guys. So
here's a couple things. Even if his sources, and I do believe he's not going to come on the air and say this if he hasn't heard something, and more substantial than just a rumor. So that's got to show an appetite from somebody, somewhere, somebody. Mm-hmm. The concern, though, and again, where you talked about, you know, slowing it down a little bit, even if there things were starting to be in place, we've seen the barriers between getting a new team, a new arena. We've seen it, and so there are so many things still yet to happen. But it's so nice to hear some positive news. We talked about it last week what Bill Daly's comments were, and he had to get to his boss to kind of come back and back him up a little bit. But Bill Daly said some stuff that made it very optimistic for Arizona hockey fans. Then you get the players poll where they, in dramatic fashion, said the city they want to go to the most is Phoenix. So I do believe there are things starting to align. Do I believe sitting here right now that there are people talking about bringing a hockey team back to Arizona? The answer is yes. I believe there are people working behind the scenes. I think there are people that are talking about it. That does not mean they're writing checks. That does not mean that they're putting shovels in the ground. That means they are talking about it. And that's positive if you're an Arizona hockey fan. It's not like you hear that, you know, some of the teams that have moved from cities and you hear, oh, that team's never going back. There's never going to be another team in that particular city or another. It's not what's happening here in Arizona. I think it is a very positive sign. I do think the league, and what Gary said is they're not talking about expansion right now. I do not think you will hear a thing from Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, and the NHL on expansion for at least a year. Whether they have owners knocking on the door, signed up, ready to go, they're not going to talk about it for a year. They need to let the dust settle from this mess.
And I understand that from their perspective as well.
But if there's going to be a team playing here in 5 years, Leah, did you see how long it's taken them to build an arena in Calgary? 3 years. So that means in the next 24 to 36 months, there is an owner, there is a shovel, and there is a plan for a building for them to play in the next 24 to 36 months. That's incredibly encouraging if you're talking about 5 years being a team.
I'm sure they probably need a couple shovels at least. But.
Couple? I'm in. I'll go volunteer.
Yeah, I'll volunteer also.
And Roaring Fork's right. The CBA is definitely put that in the
That's true. And we also have, you know, the board meetings going on this week. Pierre LeBrun tweeted yesterday that Bettman says expansion didn't come up today in the board meeting. This was yesterday in any way or fashion. That's consistent with the comments he made last week. And I don't think it's their priority right now. But like I said on last week's show, just because it's not happening right now, and doesn't mean that it's not discussions that they're having not with the board, but with among themselves in the NHL and league offices. So you got to take those comments with a grain of salt. Remember that Gary Bettman is a lawyer, and he uses his lawyer speak in a way that supports what he has to say. And
Leah, it's interesting that Matt Ishbia came up again, and the combination of two teams in one building, and that's been the comment for this building this team since they moved here in 96, 97 was two teams being owned by the same owner is the only way to make that work in a single facility. I think that is the best answer here.
I do too.
Matt Ishbia, we keep hearing from people that we know around the Suns, and our own PHNX Suns crew is saying there's nothing there. But if what we said is true, that Gary Bettman is saying that we're not talking about expansion and we're going into the Board of Governors and we're not talking expansion, do you think he's going to Matt Ishbia, hey, why don't you tell everybody you're bringing a hockey team in? Why don't you? No. He's saying zip it. Don't talk about it. Even if you're interested, we can hear that you're interested, but we're not talking about it.
Yeah, and the one public comment Ishbia has made is, I would love to see hockey back here. It was supportive of the idea.
Supportive of the idea.
Once again, very vague, very lawyerish.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that be the solution. Do I think that's the end-all, be-all only solution? No. Absolutely not. I'm telling you, I'm more optimistic than most on this. I really, really am. I do think a team is coming back. 5 is incredibly optimistic because a lot of things happen. Like, we think 5 years is an incredibly long time.
It's not.
It's quick to get all these things to happen. But
if your house renovation took 6 months, 5 years is quick.
But I am optimistic that a team will be back here for everything we've talked about. We've talked about the players want to be here, the league wants to be here, Gary Bettman wants to be here. There is hockey fan base here in Arizona. It just didn't work with the ownership group in the arena because they didn't have the right ownership at the right time. So I believe it's coming. That's it. Yep. And we'll be here doing this show. Wow, can you imagine? I know. Oh, get Craig out of retirement. Can we? Is this building wheelchair accessible? Elevator Craig is back. He's bad hips. Oh my God. Well, yeah. And come along for the ride with us. Listen, we're in Discord every single day. And I love it because we're all hockey fans at heart. We're talking hockey. We're talking NHL. Yes. We're talking these rumors. We do talk these daily in our Die Hard only Discord. Yes. You must become a Die Hard to have access, but also getting access to the Discord has access to all of the different channels. So if you're also a fan of the Suns, D-backs, Cardinals, ASU, or U of A, there's a channel in there for you. Mercury Rising as well. You also get a free shirt or hat when you become a diehard. You also get 20% off on events such as our takeover that's happening in a couple weeks. So many great reasons to become a diehard, including access to written content on the website that is Die Hard only. And speaking of written content, make sure you check out the article that Craig, Jesse, and Espo collaborated on yesterday. It's kind of depressing, but we're used to it. The worst collapses in Valley sports history. That's on the website right now at gophnx.com. We also have Gerald dropping Suns player previews with written articles and video elements every single day leading up to the Phoenix Suns season. And Jesse, of course, has done a lot of great writing about the D-backs collapse. So lots of great work at gophnx.com. Make sure you check it out and become a diehard today. Were you going to say something?
We have 3 minutes. Weekend binge. It's the last time we're going to be able to do this until...
Oh, because this is the season starts next week.
Yeah, you're going to have real things to talk about.
This is the off season.
You're going to have real things to talk about next week. So what do you got?
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
Well, without getting too much into it, my dog has been sick, so I'm staying up very late at night because he doesn't sleep. So I'm not sleeping. I am binging a show on Acorn, which is very similar to BritBox. It is New Zealand, Australia, and British shows, and it's called The Chelsea Detective. Love it. Check out Matlock on CBS, starring Kathy Bates. Very good. They give you a twist in the last 30 seconds if you want to watch a TV show over the air. It's the best one I've seen in a long time. All right. Matlock on CBS with Kathy Bates and The Chelsea Detective on Acorn.
Okay, I like it. I'm still watching The Sopranos on Max. It's been taking me a while because I also have been just like I haven't really had a ton of time to watch TV lately, but I have been reading, and I'm reading a book. I think it's called either The Good Daughter or The Perfect Daughter. I forget the name. It's so good. It's
amazing they still have books.
It's so good. She
reads them.
I think this is my 25th book this year.
That's impressive.
I'm trying to get to 36, but I'm like a little bit behind schedule.
That's impressive.
So if anybody has
if the TV's broken, I get it. But beyond there's no
I
excuse.
read every morning while I'm eating breakfast.
Really?
Yep.
That's not. So when I used to read, because I used to read a lot. It would be the opposite. It would be at night, and I would read a lot.
I try to read at night. Like I said, I haven't
Love
really
it.
had a lot of time these days.
You're
but,
busy. Promotion and all.
You know.
What is it you do around here?
There you go. Oh boy. Well,
I had fun. This show is fun.
I know.
I know we don't have a team and we're depressed, but this show is fun. I don't care what anybody
There's
says.
a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Yes.
We appreciate you all so much for being here.
Wow.
What?
Just, I guess in
Oh,
my
what are
opinion,
you
it doesn't matter.
whinging?
No, it's all good.
All right, he shook his headset off. Thank you all so much for being
What
here.
did I do?
No. We didn't ask him what he's binging, so he's.
Oh, what are you binging? Has it got dragons in it?
We got a wrap. Thank you everybody for watching. Hit the thumbs up on this video.
So you can tell us the show.
We appreciate you. He'll put it in the Discord. How about that?
It's got dragons
hit
in
the
it.
like button.
No, Chad didn't ask me either, I won't.
Subscribe to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. Subscribe to PHNX Hockey wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at SPeeders Hockey, at Leah Merrill, at Shane Deef, at PHNX_hockey. We'll be back live next Wednesday with our Atlantic preview and maybe some other nuggets, but you'll have to tune in to find out. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody, and we will see you all very soon.
We all silly like the mayor.